monkeys are complicated enough to be able to say something like, holy shit, there's a jaguar, right? and it's usually the most nervous monkey in the pack who's always jittering around on hyper alert who manages to curse out a warning. And so anyways, you have this proto-linguistic, this underlying proto-linguistic capability that's at least part perceptual and conceptual. So we know, for example, that primates, and this is true for animals that are way less sophisticated than primates, are very good at social cognition. So they know to the individual exactly what strata the other members of their group occupy. You can imagine they're in a dominance hierarchy, right? There's the top primates and the bottom primates, and then there's strata of primates all the way up, just like there is in most animals. And primates are unbelievably good at knowing who's who. And they need to be, because if you mess with a high-order primate, one that's high up in the dominance hierarchy, and you're sort of lowly, you're going to get hurt. And it's better to be lowly and know your place, or at least this is how animals manage it, than it is to get hurt. Young males who are sort of climbing up the hierarchy will often take an awful lot of abuse trying to get to the peak. But most animals in a social troop are pretty much resigned to their locale because it's safer to be there. And often the castes, so to speak, in the primate hierarchy are actually hereditary. So generation to generation, the same families, so to speak, occupy the same rungs. So one of the things we know about social cognition is that, and human cognition is that it involves social processing, and that it's also very much focused on status. There's some very funny studies of this sort of thing. I think one was done with macaques, if I remember correctly, where they'd show macaques photographs of other macaques from their troop, and those photographs were either of low status macaques or of high status sort of celebrity macaques, and the macaques would spend much longer time gazing at the high status celebrity macaques than like the low people, creatures, whatever have you, that they had nothing but contempt for. So you can think a lot of our pre-existing perceptual and conceptual categories are social, so we're always processing other creatures, humans for sure, but other living creatures as well, and we're also very concerned with who's doing what to who and when, and who's got the power, because it turns out that dominance hierarchy status, for example, is unbelievably important in determining, well, reproductive opportunities in particular, but also general health and access to, prime access to resources, unbelievably important. The internal representations of language meaning evolved partly from our pre-linguistic ancestors' knowledge of social relations. Remember, when we tell stories or listen to stories, they're always about social relations all the time. Like modern monkeys and apes, our ancestors lived in groups with intricate networks of relationships that were simultaneously competitive and cooperative. The demands of social life created selective pressures for just the kind of complex, abstract, conceptual, and computational abilities that are likely to have preceded the earliest forms of linguistic communication. Although baboons have concepts and acquire propositional information from other animals' vocalizations, they cannot articulate this information. They understand dominance relations and matrilineal kinship, but have no words for them. This suggests that the internal representation of many concepts, relations, and action sequences does not require language, and that language did not evolve because it was uniquely suited to representing thought. Well, as I mentioned to you in the last class, or maybe the previous class, not only do monkeys, baboons say, which are very complex, not only are they able to track dominance hierarchy structures without language, like lobsters are able to do it. So you can be very, very sure that the underlying basis for the linguistic representation of social interactions is deep beyond belief, since we share it with crustaceans. So it's very useful to know this, because it also helps understand why certain things have intrinsic meaning, like the dominance hierarchy and the position in the dominance hierarchy and the relative status of creatures is an intrinsically meaningful piece of information to us, because it's an important determinant of our survival and reproductive opportunities. So the meaning is there. You don't have to learn it. You just have to figure out what to map it onto. And that means that kind of meaning, status-related meaning, is archetypal. It's built into you as the ground of understanding. So, and I'll show you something. Hopefully this will work. Be a miracle if it worked. There we go. Okay, so watch this. So we'll watch it one more time. Okay, so anybody willing to hazard a guess about what was happening there? It was an attack. That's one hypothesis. Yes. Anyone else? Let's look at the players once again. Well, so the poor little pink circle is trapped, and then it's trying to get out. And when it does get out, the big gray triangle shepherds it away, but that irritates the blue triangle, which shepherds it back into the box, and the gray triangle isn't able to enter. Something like that. You can tell a story about it. And does that? I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that's the canonical interpretation of the triangle's behavior or any of that, but you would agree, I presume, that that's a reasonably plausible interpretation of what those triangles and circles were up to. Yes? Okay, well, no, right, because they're triangles and circles. But the point is that our ability to perceive social interactions is so deep that we can take entities that are only living insofar as they're moving in certain ways, and we immediately attribute, like, motivation to them. We can tell a little story about them, and we can also agree on the story. Now, you could say, well, it was sort of built in by the people who made the little animated demonstration, but that doesn't matter, because the point is they were able to build it in with virtually no representation whatsoever and communicate it, because they knew that we understand that sort of information. So there's the domain of nature outside the domain of culture. It's like an ocean surrounding an island, and then there's you standing on the island. The island's nice and secure. It's a very standard mythological representation of the cosmos, by the way. And there's culture, and there's nature, and there's you, and that's the archetypal situation of the human being, and that's essentially our reality. And it's a reality that's not merely objective, because it's so tied up with life and with other people and with our own essential being. Here are some, now, we can move from the sort of underlying domains of nature, the unknown, culture, the known, and the individual, and then we can start to put some symbolic flesh on those bones. And this will help us when we get into discussions of psychoanalytic theory, because the analytical psychologists like Jung and the psychoanalysts like Freud were very, very interested in the images that were produced by what they regarded as the unconscious mind. Now, your most direct contact with those sorts of images would come from two sources. One would be your dreams, and the other would be the stories that you were exposed to, both ancient and new, because those stories are full of mythological motifs. I mean, it's very weird, you know. In recent years, the most expensive artifacts that human beings produce, virtually, maybe with the exception of plants that fabricate chips, are movies, visual representations of mythological themes. So, for example, the Marvel movies, Iron Man and those sorts of movies, and the Avenger, those are among the most expensive things that people have ever created. And, you know, you say, well, there's obviously a profit motive underlying that. Well, yeah, it's not a very intelligent analysis. The point is that people are still devoting a staggering amount of effort to representations like that, and everybody goes and watches them. So just for an example, you know, in the Avengers movie, I can name half a dozen mythological motifs that are embedded in that. So, for example, Iron Man is an alchemical symbol because he's turning into gold, and iron turns into gold as far as the ancient alchemists are concerned. That's part of its moral progression towards perfection. And his suit represents that because it's gold, even though he's the Iron Man. He's also Icarus, right? Remember, Icarus flies too close to the sun and then plummets to Earth. So, of course, Iron Man does that when he's encountering the thermonuclear explosion that eventually wipes out the demonic aliens that are pouring through the portal in time. So in the Thor movies, that's a hostile brothers motif. So there's Thor and Loki. That's like Cain and Abel, or Christ and Satan. It's the same motif. And it's representative of the sort of eternal battle between good and evil that's going on in the background of human consciousness. And like, it's on and on and on. These movies portray these symbolic realities for us, and we're so hungry for them that we'll line up and pay to watch them.
Anh hay mơ mộng mình thứ xa xôi, không màng về tình ái muôn nơi. Sống cho là trọn kiếp đây thôi, đâu quan tâm gì chuyện đời. Thế mà lại nằm tương tư, ông tầm bà mũi xe tơ. Đêm nằm trộm nhớ mơ mơ về ai. Thì ra anh yêu rồi, từ ánh mắt nụ cười, từ đôi môi gọi mưa sao xuyến lòng anh. Thì ra mê em rồi, ngày hay đêm ôm lời, chỉ nghĩ đến em thôi. Đó là do anh đã yêu rồi, anh đã yêu rồi, anh đã yêu rồi. Oh, oh, anh đã yêu rồi, anh đã yêu rồi, anh đã yêu em mất rồi. Anh hay mơ mộng mình thứ xa xôi, không màng về tình ái muôn nơi. Sống cho là trọn kiếp đây thôi, đâu quan tâm gì chuyện đời. Thế mà lại nằm tương tư, ông tầm bà mũi xe tơ. Đêm nằm trộm nhớ mơ mơ về ai. Thì ra anh yêu rồi, từ ánh mắt nụ cười, từ đôi môi gọi mưa sao xuyến lòng anh. Thì ra mê em.
retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.